Hey guys! Tonight, we begin with a time when your winter wardrobe was whatever you could wrestle off a dead animal. It's the Stone Age, and the cold isn't sweater weather. It's hope you like freezing to death weather. The world is colder, hungrier, and the neighbors, mostly wolves. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft, steady hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations! You've just woken up in an ice age without Wi-Fi. You wake up to the sound of something crunching outside the cave. Not the cozy, snow under boots crunch from a Christmas movie. No. This is the kind of crunch that says something with more teeth than friends is getting closer. You pull the animal's skin tighter around your shoulders, which doesn't help much because it's been stiff with frost since last night. Your breath hangs in the air in heavy clouds, catching the faint glow of the embers sulking in the fire pit. They're the last survivors of last night's blaze, clinging to life just like you are. It's early, too early. But here, in the Stone Age, sleeping in doesn't exist. Hunger doesn't care about your comfort. It gnaws at your ribs like an impatient rodent, reminding you that your last meal was actually, you can't remember. Either it was days ago, or the blood has retreated from your brain to keep your toes from freezing off. You glance at the cave mouth. A faint blue light spills over the snow outside, painting everything in that strange, silent dawn hue. The air smells like wet fur, pine resin, and the kind of cold that has its own scent. Sharp, metallic, like biting into a coin. Somewhere far off, a crow calls, its voice raspy and mocking, as if it knows you won't make it to lunchtime. You might think your modern winter gear would save you here. That high-tech puffer jacket, worthless without the layers of grace and smoke the locals rub into their hides to block wind and water. Your insulated water bottle. Congratulations. It's now a solid block of ice. Outside you spot Ota, one of the hunters, trudging back from the forest. His reindeer hide cloak still has bits of antler hanging off it. His hair is frozen stiff, his breath plumes like a chimney. He's carrying a spear, its tip dark with something that could be blood. Or mud. Either way, he looks more alive than you feel. He gives you a look that says, start moving if you want to eat. That's the Stone Age version of, good morning. You nod, pretending your stiff legs don't feel like they've been replaced with frozen tree trunks. Stepping outside feels like walking into a wall made of knives. The wind slashes at your cheeks, your eyes water instantly, and your nose decides to start running, just so you have something else freezing to your face. The snow under your feet squeaks with each step, the sound oddly loud in the stillness. The sun hasn't fully risen yet, and already the day feels urgent. Every minute the animals get farther away. The water holes freeze harder, and your chances of eating shrink. Daylight here is short and stingy, and staying out after dark is basically volunteering to become dinner for something else. You and Ota head toward the tree line. Every breath hurts, stabbing your lungs with icy needles. Your toes are numb, your fingers stiff inside rough leather. The Stone Age winter doesn't ease you into hypothermia. It shoves you straight in. Ota's eyes scan the snow. Every dip, every faint line tells a story. 2 parallel grooves. A hair dragging itself through the powder. Wide, heavy indentations. Could be deer. Could also be something that eats deer. Or you. The tracks lead deeper into the woods, where snow clings heavier to the branches. It's quieter here. Too quiet. Even the birds seem to be holding their breath. Ota stops suddenly, raising a hand. Ahead, between 2 trees, a flicker of movement, brown fur against white snow. Your stomach growls so loud you worry it'll scare the animal off. You crouch beside him, knees creaking like old wood. It's a young reindeer, pawing through snow for food. It looks thin, you feel thinner. For a second you feel guilty. Then the wind bites your ears, and hunger drowns the guilt out. Ota moves slow, readying his spear. Your own breath sounds deafening, and then, a sound from the side, low, deep, a growl that rumbles in your chest. The reindeer bolts. You and Ota freeze. Slowly you turn toward the sound. Half hidden in the shadows, a massive shape stares back. fur bristling, breath steaming, teeth catching the faint winter light. And you remember, in the Stone Age, you're not at the top of the food chain. Not even close. You don't move. Not because you don't want to. You do, desperately. But because your muscles have forgotten how. Ota is already shifting his weight, spear poised, eyes fixed on the thing in front of you. A wolf. No, bigger. The kind of wolf that makes modern ones look like awkward huskies in a Christmas card. This one's shoulders come up past your waist. Its fur is thick, matted with ice, and its eyes are a pale, unnatural yellow. Not the cute golden retriever kind of yellow. You might already be dead, I'm just deciding which part to eat first. Yellow. The creature's breath fogs in the cold air, each exhale a visible reminder that it's warm inside its skin. And that you're not. Ota whispers something under his breath in a language you don't understand. You're hoping it's, let's back away slowly, and not, I'll distract it while you run. The wolf's head tilts slightly. Like it's weighing the effort of killing you versus finding something less bony. You suddenly remember you haven't exactly been feasting lately. Maybe hunger is your only defense. You're too stringy to be worth the trouble. But then again, desperation works both ways. A starving predator isn't picky. The standoff stretches on. You feel every heartbeat in your fingers, your chest, your throat. The cold no longer feels sharp. Now it's distant. Like your body has decided to stop bothering with discomfort and focus entirely on survival. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the wolf turns and melts into the trees, its enormous paws leaving deep impressions in the snow. You release a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding, and Ota lowers his spear. He says something curt, gestures for you to follow. You obey without question. Because honestly, what else are you going to do? Stay behind and invite round two. You walk deeper into the forest, the snow swallowing the sound of your steps. The air smells of pine, wood smoke, and something faintly metallic. Blood. It's not comforting. By midday, the light filtering through the trees is dim and cold, more like moonlight than sun. You find yourself wondering if this is as bright as it's going to get. The Stone Age sun feels lazy, like it has better things to do than keep you alive. Eventually, Ota stops at a frozen stream. He kneels, chips away at the ice with a sharp flake of stone, and gestures for you to drink. You hesitate. Because, ice, water and sub-zero temperatures sounds like a really bad idea. But your throat burns from dryness, so you lean in. The water tastes impossibly clean. Like it's never been touched by anything human. It's so cold it makes your teeth ache. But you can't stop. You're still crouched there when Ota stiffens. You follow his gaze across the frozen stream. There in the snow are tracks. Big ones. Clawed. You remember the wolf's eyes and feel a sudden urge to go back to the cave. Ota, however, seems intrigued. Of course he is. Hunting in the Stone Age isn't optional. You follow him reluctantly, each step feeling like you're walking into someone else's territory. The tracks lead to a clearing where the snow is disturbed, trampled. There's fur scattered around, a splash of red frozen in place. Whatever happened here, it wasn't long ago. You half expect to see the wolf again, but instead, a different shape moves at the far edge of the clearing. Broad, shouldered, hunched, walking upright. Your brain takes a moment to process it. Not human. Not exactly. Taller, heavier with a shaggy coat of hair that makes it look half bear, half person. Its hands, not paws, carry a crude club. You've read about creatures like this, but books don't prepare you for seeing one breathe. Steam curling around its face. A Neanderthal. One of them. Ota's body language changes instantly. He doesn't raise his weapon, but his grip tightens. This is not a friendly neighbor situation. The Neanderthal stares back for a moment, unreadable, then disappears into the trees. You realize you've been holding your breath again. The walk back to the cave is faster, more tense. You keep glancing over your shoulder, half expecting to see either the wolf or the Neanderthal trailing you. The snow is falling now, thick and heavy, muting the world even more. By the time you reach the cave, the light is already fading, the air colder than you thought possible. Inside, the fire is nearly out. A few others are huddled together, faces gaunt, eyes reflecting the flames like tired animals. You lower yourself to the ground, your bones aching, your stomach growling in protest at another day without a real meal. Ota drops something by the fire. Not a deer, not even a hare. Just a few scraps of meat, already half frozen. They'll be gone in minutes, and the hunger will still be there. You lie back against the cold stone wall, staring at the flickering shadows. The wind howls outside like some ancient voice, and you can't help but think, this is just day one, and winter has months to go. You don't sleep so much as drift in and out of small, uneasy dozes, jolted awake each time the fire pops or someone shifts nearby. In the pitch black, you can't tell how much time has passed. You keep your knees drawn up, arms wrapped around yourself, but it's not enough. The cold doesn't feel like something on the outside anymore. It's inside you, as if your bones have been replaced with ice. When you finally wake for good, the cave is filled with pale blue light. Morning, not that it feels any warmer. Ota is already moving, pulling on his furs. He gestures for you to do the same. You hesitate, wishing for 5 more minutes near the fire, but that's a luxury you don't get here. Outside, the snow has stopped, but the sky is a solid sheet of grey. The world feels muffled, like you're inside a snow globe. Your breath forms clouds in front of your face, and each inhale feels like inhaling shards of glass. You set out again, following Ota's steady pace through knee-deep snow. Your boots, if you can call them that, a little more than wrapped animal hide, and they're already soaked through. You can't feel your toes. That's probably fine. People have lived without toes before, right? The forest is silent except for the crunch of snow and the occasional snap of a distant branch. No birdsong, no rustle of leaves. Even the animals seem to be conserving energy. You think about the modern winter coats you've owned, the kind that brag about being Arctic tested, and how they'd probably give up and cry here. Your Stone Age version is just enough to stop you from freezing instantly, which, in this context, counts as warm. By midday, you come across a frozen lake. Ota doesn't hesitate. He tests the ice with his spear, then steps onto it. You, however, feel the kind of hesitation that only comes from watching every "Don't walk on thin ice" PSA as a kid. The surface groans under your weight. The sound shooting panic straight into your spine. But you follow, because being on the ice with Ota feels safer than being alone on the shore. Barely. Halfway across, Ota stops. You follow his gaze and see movement under the ice, a dark, sinuous shape. It glides beneath the frozen surface, shadowy and alien. Your heart jumps into your throat. Fish! Seal! Something worse? The shadow passes, and Ota keeps moving, apparently unbothered. You file that under Stone Age problems I'm not ready to face. On the far side, the snow is less deep, the trees sparser. Ota kneels and begins inspecting the ground. You see faint tracks, not as big as yesterday's wolf, but enough to quicken his pace. The two of you follow them until the air changes, carrying with it the sharp, coppery scent of blood. You round a cluster of rocks and see it a reindeer, half eaten, its ribcage open like some grim winter flower. Steam still rises from the body. Whatever killed it is nearby. Ota crouches low, scanning the tree line. You try to mimic him, though your legs are shaking. Every nerve in your body is telling you to leave. But in the Stone Age, leaving food behind isn't just wasteful, it's suicide. Ota edges forward, pulling a flint knife from his belt. You follow, your own hands uselessly empty. The sound reaches you before the sight does. A low, throaty growl from somewhere above. Your eyes dart upward. On a branch, barely visible against the snow, is a lynx. Its tufted ears twitch. Its eyes are locked on you. Ota freezes. You freeze. For a long moment no one moves. Then the lynx leaps. Not at you, but at the reindeer. It snarls as its teeth sink into the meat, clearly claiming it. Ota backs away, eyes never leaving the animal. You do the same, your heart pounding. Dinner is cancelled. The walk back is quite a tenser. Hunger is a physical thing now, twisting in your gut, making your steps heavy. When the cave finally comes into view, it's like seeing an Isis. Inside, the others look up, their faces expectant. Ota shakes his head, and those faces fall. The rest of the day is a slow unraveling of your energy. You scrape ice from the walls for water, tend the fire, patch a tear in your clothing with sinew and hide. Every task is harder than it should be, because your fingers don't want to move. At one point, you catch yourself thinking about food so vividly you swear you can smell it. Bread, soup, roasted meat, And then you realize it's just someone boiling bone broth in the corner. Night falls early, and the wind starts again, howling across the cave mouth. The sound is almost human, a long mournful wail that seeps into your bones. You curl up near the fire, but your sleep is shallow, filled with strange dreams, teeth, ice, eyes in the dark. When you wake, it's because Ota is shaking you. His voice is urgent. You sit up, groggy, and hear it. Footsteps crunching outside the cave. Heavy ones. Not an animal's. They stop just beyond the firelight. Ota grips his spear and gestures for silence. The rest of the group is still, their eyes wide. The footsteps start again, slow, deliberate, circling the entrance. Then a shadow passes, tall, broad-shouldered, with a strange, sloping head. You don't need to see its face to know. The Neanderthal from yesterday has come back. You don't dare breathe too loudly. The air in the cave feels like it's thickened, as if the smoke from the fire has become a physical thing, clinging to your throat. You can see the outline of the Neanderthal's head, silhouetted against the pale snow outside. He moves slowly, deliberately, like someone who knows exactly what he's looking for, and that he's going to find it. Ota raises his hand, palm out, a silent command to stay still. His spear is steady, but you notice the faint tremor in his wrist. Neanderthals are not just slightly bigger cavemen. Their power condensed into flesh, broader, stronger, adapted to the cold in a way you are not and never will be. The shadow pauses, and you hear the faintest sniffing sound, like a dog catching a scent. The smell of your fire, the sweat, the hides, the faint tang of blood from a healing cut on your hand. All of it is probably screaming your presence into the night. Then, without warning, the figure steps forward into full view. His skin is pale in the firelight, but marked with streaks of ash and earth. His eyes catch the light in a way that makes them seem almost animal, and for a moment you're not sure if he's looking at you or through you. Ota speaks first, not in your language, and not in his, but in the universal tongue of low, careful sounds that say, "We're not a threat. We're not worth your time." The Neanderthal tilts his head. The lines in his face are deep, not with age, but with the kind of survival that carves a person from the inside out. He steps closer. The air changes again, heavier, colder. You can hear his breathing now, slow and steady, the kind of breath you only take when you're not afraid of anyone else in the room. And then, in one motion so fast it's like the air itself flinched, Ota thrusts the spear forward just enough to block his advance. Not a stab, a warning. The Neanderthal's eyes narrow. His gaze sweeps over the cave's inhabitants, lingers on you for a heartbeat too long, then shifts away. A slow exhale leaves his mouth, steaming in the cold. Without a sound, he steps backward, fading into the shadowed mouth of the cave until he's gone. But the silence he leaves behind is worse. No one speaks for a long time. When they do, it's in low murmurs. Ota sits down heavily, the spear still in his grip, and doesn't look at you. It's not personal. It's survival. The rest of the night is spent listening. Every crack of ice outside, every gust of wind, feels like it might be him coming back. You dream of heavy footsteps crunching snow, always just outside your sight. The next morning, you find his tracks, massive, deep in the snow, leading away from the cave. They vanish into the trees, but the image stays with you. You know he's still out there, watching, waiting. By midday, hunger drives you out again. This time you travel in a group, spears in every hand, eyes scanning the tree line. The cold is sharper today, a dry, slicing cold that turns your breath into tiny needles in your lungs. You come across an old hunting ground, where broken tree branches and scattered bones mark the remains of past kills. It's here that you spot movement, not one, but three shapes darting between the trees. Wolves. Their fur is thick and dark, dusted with frost, their bodies lean but coiled with power. One of them stops and stares directly at you. Its eyes are yellow, bright even in the muted light. You can feel the weight of that gaze like a physical thing pressing against your chest. Then, as quickly as they appeared, they vanish into the trees. You exhale, realizing you'd been holding your breath. But Ota doesn't relax. He just keeps moving, faster now. The wolves didn't leave. They're circling. The group spreads out slightly, the way people do when they want to watch all directions at once. You do your best to imitate the way Ota moves. Quiet, balanced, ready. but your boots slip on a patch of hidden ice, and the sound of your stumble rings far too loudly in the frozen air. From somewhere behind, a sharp, high-pitched yelp cuts through the silence. One of the group has seen something. Then you hear it. The pounding of paws on snow, closing in fast. You don't have time to think. Ota shouts something and the group bunches together, spears out. The wolves appear from the tree line, their bodies low, their teeth bared. They fan out in a semicircle, keeping just far enough back to avoid the points of your weapons. One of them lunges, not at you, but at the smallest member of the group. Ota steps in, jabbing his spear. The wolf yelps and retreats, but not far. It's testing you. The standoff feels endless. Every muscle in your body aches from the tension, but you know the second you lower your weapon, it's over. Eventually, as if deciding you're not worth the effort, the wolves fade back into the trees. When they're gone, no one cheers. No one even breathes relief. You just keep walking. In the Stone Age, surviving an encounter isn't victory. It's just another day you didn't die. By the time you return to the cave, your legs feel like lead. You collapse near the fire, the heat stinging your frozen skin. Outside, the light is fading fast. And that's when you hear it. A distant, rhythmic thumping. At first, you think it's your own heartbeat, still racing from the wolves. But then it grows louder. Closer. Ota looks up sharply. Everyone goes still. The sound isn't animal. It's human. A deep, steady beat, like a drum. You realize, with a coldness that has nothing to do with winter, that it's coming from the direction of the Neanderthals' tracks. And it's getting closer. You don't move. No one does. The thumping grows louder, slow but relentless, like something that doesn't care if you hear it. In fact, it wants you to hear it. The sound rolls through the frozen air, bouncing off the walls of the cave, and with each beat you can almost feel the vibration in your bones. Someone near the fire mutters a prayer in a language you don't know, but even without translation, you understand. Don't let it find us. Ota motions for everyone to put out the flames. The light vanishes in a rush of smoke, leaving only the faint glow from the snow outside. Your eyes strain in the dimness, catching the pale silhouettes of the others huddled against the back wall. The sound stops. The silence that follows is worse. The kind of silence that feels alive, like the air is holding its breath with you. You listen so hard your ears ache. And then, crunch. Snow underfoot. Not running. Not sneaking. Just walking. Whoever it is, they know exactly where you are. Your fingers ache from gripping your spear too tightly. Ota's shape is barely visible, but you can sense him leaning forward, poised between fight and flight. The figure appears at the cave mouth, broad shoulders, the glint of something metallic in the hand. It's the Neanderthal. But this time, he's not alone. Two more step out of the shadows behind him. One carries a long, curved piece of sharpened bone. The other's arms are painted in thick swirls of ochre and ash, the patterns almost glowing in the dim light. Their faces are unreadable eyes, dark pits in the pale, frost-bitten world outside. Ota rises slowly. His voice is calm when he speaks, but there's a tremor in it. Not fear exactly, but the knowledge that the wrong move here is death. The Neanderthal tilts his head, studying the group. Then, without warning, he points at you. You feel every eye in the cave snap toward you. Your breath turns sharp in your throat. Ota steps between you and them, raising a hand, speaking fast. His words are low and urgent, but the Neanderthal doesn't move his gaze. It's strange, in that moment, you realize he's not looking at you like prey. It's more like curiosity. As if he's deciding whether you're worth taking. One of the others murmurs something to him, and after a long, frozen pause, the Neanderthal lets out a short, sharp grunt. Then, just like before, they turn and walk away. No rush, no fear. When they vanish into the trees, Ota collapses to one knee. No one speaks for a long time. Eventually, someone starts the fire again, but the warmth feels different now, smaller, fragile. That night, sleep doesn't come easily. The cave walls feel closer than usual, the air heavier. Every sound outside, the creak of ice, the distant howl of wolves, makes your eyes snap open. You think about the way he looked at you. Not like a stranger. More like someone who recognized something in you. And you realize, with a creeping certainty, that this winter isn't going to end with the snow melting. It's going to end with a choice. One you're not ready to make. The cold wakes you before the light does. Not the gentle cold you complain about when you forget a jacket in modern life. No. This is the kind of cold that gnaws. It's in your chest when you breathe, in your bones when you shift, in the air that slides over your face like a blade. When you exhale, the cloud of your breath hangs in front of you longer than it should, like it's reluctant to leave. Everyone else is still wrapped in furs, their shapes like mounds of snow against the cave wall. But Ota is already up. He always is. You watch him work the flint in the faint glow of the embers, his hands moving in sharp, efficient clicks. Sparks kiss the air and die instantly. He swears softly under his breath. A language you don't know, but the frustration is universal. He sees you watching. "We go soon," he says in his rough voice. "Hunt." The word makes your stomach twist. Hunt. It's been 3 days since you last tasted anything, beyond scraps of dried meat, so tough it could break your teeth. Your body doesn't feel like yours anymore. It's heavier in some places, hollower in others. Outside, the wind howls in a long, low note. The sound has weight. It pushes at the cave entrance, seeps in through the cracks, and snakes its way toward you. Even with the furs wrapped tight, your toes feel like glass about to shatter. When you finally step outside, the first thing you notice is the silence beneath the wind. No birds. No trickle of water. Just the crunch of your feet in the snow, and the sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. The world is a flat, endless white, sky and ground bleeding into one another, until it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. The only colors are the gray, black trees, stripped bare and clawing at the sky, and the smudges of brown where rocks break through the snow. Ota leads, his steps sure, behind him 2 other hunters. Kren, with his sharp fox-like face, and Mura, her hair stiff with frost, carry spears. You carry one too, though it feels less like a weapon, and more like an idea of one. Every breath burns your throat. Every step makes your calves ache. And still you keep going, because stopping isn't an option. In the Stone Age, stopping is dying. Somewhere ahead, the snow shifts. Ota freezes, one hand up. Everyone drops into a crouch. You squint into the blur of white and shadow, and then you see it. A reindeer, alone, its head low as it digs through the snow for something to eat. It looks thin, weak, perfect. You're so focused on it that you don't notice the second movement, the flash of pale fur on the ridge above. Wolves. At least 4 of them, tails low, ears forward. They see the deer too. For a moment, it's a standoff. Humans on one side, wolves on the other, the deer in the middle. The air tightens. Your hand sweats against the shaft of the spear, even in the cold. Ota moves first. A sharp whistle, a point of his spear, and you all break into a run. The deer bolts. So do the wolves. The snow is treacherous, giving way beneath your feet, dragging at your legs like it's trying to pull you down. You run anyway. The deer leaps over a fallen tree. You clamber after it, heart pounding so hard you feel it in your teeth. A wolf lunges in from the side, snapping at the deer's flank, and misses. The animal veers toward you, eyes wide with blind panic. You thrust your spear without thinking. It catches the deer's shoulder. The animal stumbles, kicks, and crashes into the snow. Kren is on it in an instant, finishing it with a sharp, brutal jab. The wolves stop. They watch. One steps forward, teeth bared, a low growl rolling out of its chest. Mura yells, waving her spear. The wolves hesitate, then melt back into the trees, the silence swallowing them again. The deer lies still now, its breath steaming in the frozen air. You don't feel triumph, just relief, and something darker, the knowledge that you were one slip, one hesitation away from being the one in the snow. The meat will last. Not long, but long enough. By the time you drag the carcass back to the cave, the light is fading. The others greet you with tired smiles, hands reaching for the fresh kill. The fire roars back to life, its heat like a physical force against your skin. You eat until you can't. The meat is gamey, tough, and smoky from the fire, but it's more satisfying than anything you've ever tasted in your own time. Later, as you curl under your furs, you think about the wolves, how they watched, how they waited, how in this winter you're not just a hunter, you're also prey. And maybe you realize that's the real game here, not the cold, not the hunger, but who's watching you from the dark, and how long they'll wait before they move. You wake before the sun, not because you're eager, but because the cold is an unkind hand shaking your shoulder. It creeps through the hide blanket and nips at your toes like a rat looking for scraps. Your breath escapes in pale clouds, and for a brief, confused moment, you wonder if you're still dreaming. Then the smell hits you, smoke that's nearly died out, stale from yesterday's fire, and the faint soreness of animal fat hardened in a pot by the hearth. The clan is already moving. Shadows shuffle past the fire pit, hunched, wrapped in furs that used to be alive. Someone grunts, someone else coughs, and you hear the rasp of a stone scraping against a spearhead. It's the sound of survival, urgent, methodical, and without ceremony. Today is a hunting day, which, in Stone Age winter, is a polite way of saying, you'll be freezing, hungry, and quite possibly dead by nightfall. You're not the only one who doesn't want to go. Even the hunters, men and women who have lived more winters than you, look at the wind outside with narrowed eyes. The trees groan as if warning you to stay inside. Snow spins past the cave mouth, glittering in the dim light, like it's trying to trick you into thinking this will be beautiful. It won't be. Snow is just rain with a vendetta. Your stomach growls, a sharp, hollow sound that embarrassingly echoes in the stillness. You ate last night, but meat this time of year is lean, and it doesn't cling to your ribs for long. You'd kill for bread, but bread hasn't been invented yet, so instead you gnaw a strip of dried venison. It's like chewing a piece of bark that vaguely remembers being food. The hunt leader, Kor, appears from the shadows, wrapped in a wolf pelt. His face is painted with ochre, not for intimidation, but for warmth. A thin layer that seals skin against the wind. He carries a spear taller than you and doesn't look like the type who worries about frostbite. He gestures at you. You, come. That's all. No pep talk. No, you've got this. In the Stone Age, your motivational speech is the fact you haven't starved yet. Outside, the world is a vast, indifferent white. The snow is deep enough to swallow your ankles and sometimes your knees. Every step is a fight. You try to keep your breathing quiet, but the air is so cold it stabs your lungs. Your fingers, wrapped in fur mitts, already ache. You haven't even been walking for 5 minutes. The forest is not silent. It sighs, creaks, and occasionally cracks under the weight of snow. You pass bare trees whose branches look like bony fingers reaching for the sky. A crow caws somewhere ahead. A bad sign, Kor mutters. Crows follow death. You wish he hadn't said that. Hours pass. Or maybe minutes. Time doesn't behave normally when you're cold. It stretches out, folds in on itself, and turns your brain into something sluggish and mean. You focus on the rhythm of steps, the crunch of snow underfoot, the occasional snap of a twig. The hunters stop often, crouching low, listening. Your mind drifts. You imagine your warmest memories, lying by the fire, eating fatty marrow scraped from bones, hearing the elders tell stories about spirits and heroes. Then you remember half of those heroes die in the stories. That part feels relevant now. Finally, a track. Kor points to it without speaking. In the snow lies a print, wide, deep, and unmistakably fresh. Reindeer. The clan needs this. Your pulse quickens. Partly from the thrill of the hunt, partly from the reality that if you fail, dinner tonight will be a handful of berries frozen so hard they could chip teeth. You fan out, moving slower now. Every noise feels louder. The crunch of snow, the wheeze of your breath, the rustle of fur. You spot movement ahead, a flicker of brown against white. The reindeer's head is down, scraping snow to find lichen. Its breath puffs in the air like tiny ghosts. The hunters close in. Spears are lifted. You clutch yours, feeling the wooden shaft bite into your palm, even through the mitts. Kor signals. This is it. A sudden wind gust shifts the air. The reindeer's head jerks up. Its eyes lock on yours. For a heartbeat you both freeze. Then it bolts. Chaos erupts. You lunge forward. Your legs burning as you push through the snow. The reindeer bounds away in powerful leaps, but it's slowed by the same snow that's slowing you. Hunters spread out shouting, trying to cut it off. Your spear feels heavier by the second. One of the hunters, Sira, throws her spear. It arcs through the air and sinks into the snow, missing by a handspan. The reindeer veers, and suddenly it's coming toward you. Your body moves before your brain catches up. You plant your feet, draw back your arm, and hurl the spear with every ounce of strength you have. It hits, not fatally but deep enough to wound. The reindeer stumbles, thrashing, snow spraying in a wild halo. Car and another hunter close in, finishing it quickly. The air is full of steam, blood, and the sharp, iron scent of life ending. You're trembling, not just from the cold. There's a strange mix of triumph and guilt clawing at your chest. The reindeer's dark eye stares at nothing now. You look away. Survival doesn't give you time to linger. The carcass is heavy. It takes 4 of you to lift it onto a sled made of lashed branches. The trip back is slower. The cold feels deeper now, maybe because you've stopped running. The sun is lowering. Not that it was ever very high. Winter days here are stingy with light. Halfway back you hear it, a howl. Low, distant, but close enough to stiffen every muscle in your body. Wolves. You glance at the hunters. No one speaks, but they quicken the pace. The sled drags harder through the snow, the rope biting into your mitts. The howls come again closer. Shadows move between the trees. Quick, flickering shapes. You keep walking, heart hammering, praying they're more interested in something else. But wolves in winter are like you, always hungry. The clan's cave appears at last, a dark wound in the white hillside. People rush out to help drag the carcass inside. The wolves don't follow past the open ground. Not tonight, at least. Inside, the fire roars. You collapse near it, heat flooding your frozen skin until it stings. The reindeer is already being butchered, steam rising from the meat. Soon there will be food, warmth, and stories. But outside, the wind howls. And you know tomorrow will come with the same hunger, the same cold, and the same question you've been quietly asking since winter began. How much longer can you last? You'd think the fire would be comforting. And it is, in a way. It crackles, hisses, spits little sparks that rise and vanish like tiny souls fleeing to warmer worlds. It pushes back the cold just enough that your skin remembers what not dying feels like. But it also casts shadows, long, wreathing things that shift with every flicker, creeping along the cave walls like they're alive. The Stone Age doesn't have electric lamps or double-paned windows. Your entire defense against the night is a pile of sticks that burns too quickly, and a handful of people who may or may not like you. The smell of roasting meat fills the cave, sharp and fatty, the kind that makes your empty stomach tighten and your mouth water, even though you know it'll be hours before it's your turn to eat. The butchering took most of the afternoon. Now, slabs of reindeer hang near the fire, fat sizzling and dripping into the flames. You're sitting between 2 clan members, Sira, the hunter who almost skewered the reindeer earlier, and Toran, who speaks about as often as glaciers move. Sira smells like smoke and wet fur. Toran smells like he hasn't been near smoke in weeks. The fire is hot on your face, but the back of your neck still feels the icy breath of the cave mouth. Every now and then, a gust of wind squeezes through the rocks and snakes across the floor, making the flames bend away as if the night itself is trying to put them out. Outside, the wind hasn't stopped. It howls and moans through the trees, carrying with it faint, distant noises you'd rather not identify. Somewhere in that soundscape, a wolf answers. Kor, the hunt leader, sits opposite you. He's sharpening his spear again. The blade's already clean, already sharp enough to cut a whisper in half, but he keeps working it against the stone. You suspect it's more about the rhythm, the habit, than the weapon. The sound, scrape, 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 is steady, almost soothing. Until you imagine the reason it might be needed again tonight. When you first imagine a Stone Age winter night, you probably picture everyone sleeping soundly under furs. You imagine peace, maybe even safety. But here's the truth: nights are when the real work begins. Nights are when the cold tests your will to live, when predators creep closer, when hunger gnaws harder, and when the mind, left too long with its own thoughts, starts inventing new fears to keep you awake. You glance toward the entrance. 2 guards stand there, one tall and wiry, the other short but with shoulders like stone. Their job is simply keep the fire lit, watch for movement outside, and shout if something with claws shows up. No one trusts the dark. The dark hides too much. The dark is where things wait, patient and silent, until you're tired enough to slip. The reindeer meat is finally passed around. Your portion is small, a strip of fatty muscle, cooked until the outside is crisp, but the inside is still red. You tear into it with your teeth. It's smoky, gamey, and far better than anything you've eaten in days. Grace runs down your chin. and you don't care. Your body drinks in the calories like they're gold. The heat from the food spreads through you, but it's a fragile warmth. You know it'll be gone long before morning. The clan's elder, a woman called Vane, begins to speak. Her voice is low, scratchy with age, but everyone quiets. She tells a story. Not the cheerful kind you tell children, but one about a winter long ago, when the snow came earlier than expected and stayed longer than anyone had seen before. She speaks of hunger so deep it drove people to eat the leather from their own shoes, of hunting parties that vanished into the white and never returned. She doesn't smile when she talks. No one laughs. You try not to think about the fact that the cold this year feels just as deep. When Vane finishes, there's a moment of silence. Then Kor clears his throat and orders everyone to rest. You're assigned to second watch, the graveyard shift, the one where your body begs for sleep and the dark feels thick enough to touch. You wrap yourself in a hide and lie down on the packed dirt. The fire's light dances on the cave ceiling, and the wind's song outside never ends. You close your eyes, but you don't really sleep. When your turn comes, you force yourself upright. Your limbs feel heavy, your mind fogged. Sira passes you the watch. She doesn't speak, just claps your shoulder once and disappears into the firs. The cold hits you like a slap. The wind outside hasn't lost strength. The guards have dwindled to you and Torin. He stands a few feet away, eyes on the darkness beyond the fire's reach. You follow his gaze, but all you see is black. The night is not empty. You hear things. A branch snapping in the forest. Snow shifting under weight that isn't wind. The low crunch of paws or hooves. Sometimes the sound is close enough that you're sure you'll see movement. But the dark swallows everything. Torin doesn't speak. You don't either. Words feel too loud. Time stretches. The fire burns low. You feed it, watching sparks spiral upward and vanish. For a moment, you let yourself believe the worst is over. Then you hear it. A sound that doesn't belong to the wind or the trees. A growl, low, guttural, close. The hairs on your neck rise, Torin stiffens. You grip your spear. The growl comes again, this time from the other side. Two directions. Wolves hunt in packs. Your mouth is dry. You glance toward the sleeping forms deeper in the cave. Waking them will take time you might not have. Torin meets your eyes, and you both move toward the mouth of the cave, spears ready. The firelight spills just far enough to catch movement. Shapes sliding between the trees, eyes catching the glow in quick, cold flashes. There are at least 4 of them, maybe more. One steps closer, just enough for you to see the curve of its ribs under a winter thin coat, the steam rising from its muzzle, the way its breath comes in slow, measured puffs. It's not afraid. It's deciding. You jab the spear forward, not to hit but to warn. The wolf freezes, then melts back into the dark. The others don't leave. They circle. You and Torin take turns moving, always keeping one spear facing the black. The growls fade and return, coming from different spots each time. They're testing you. Minutes crawl, or maybe hours. Your arms ache. The fire shrinks. The cold seeps in deeper. Then, as suddenly as they came, the wolves vanish into the forest. No sound. No movement. Just gone. You wait, but they don't return. When the first pale light of dawn brushes the snow outside, you finally let your shoulders drop. You've made it through the night. But as you step back toward the fire, you see something in the snow just beyond its reach. Paw prints. Dozens of them. Too close. They were closer than you thought. You wake to a sound that isn't the wind. It's sharper, closer, and it carries a weight your half. A sleep mind instantly recognizes as danger. Somewhere beyond the leather flap of the shelter, snow crunches under slow, deliberate steps. Not the aimless wandering of wind-blown branches. Not the groan of ice settling. This is something alive. Something heavy. Your breath freezes in the air before it reaches the roof of the hut, and you realize your fingers are already stiff from the cold. A part of you wants to stay still. Keep breathing slow, pretend you didn't hear it. But you know better. In the Stone Age, pretending danger isn't there is an excellent way to end up in something else's stomach. The fire has burned down to embers. Its glow barely lights the walls of the hut, and each flicker of orange makes the shadows twitch like they have lives of their own. You reach for the spear lying beside you, your hand closing around the smooth, worn shaft of wood. The tip is fire, hardened. It will punch through hide if you hit hard enough, but only if your arms don't betray you with the tremor of cold. The steps stop. The silence that follows is worse than the noise. You can hear your heart in your ears. And then, a deep wet exhale. It's close. Too close. You push the hide flap aside slowly, not wanting to spook whatever is out there. Or worse, make it decide you look easy to catch. The cold slams into you like a wall. Your eyes take a moment to adjust, and when they do, you see it. A shape in the snow. Massive shoulders hunched against the wind. Shaggy fur crusted with frost. A bison. No, it's standing wrong. Taller, narrower. And its eyes, those aren't prey eyes. They're locked on you like you're the last warm thing for miles. It's a cave lion. You've heard the elders talk about them. Bigger than any modern lion, with muscles built for smashing through snow, and jaws wide enough to make short work of you. You know two things instantly. One, you are not fast enough to outrun it in snow this deep. Two, it has probably been tracking you for hours. The wind shifts. The smell hits you, wild, musky, and sharp, like blood on iron. Your stomach turns, and you feel a ridiculous flash of modern indignation. Why couldn't this be a deer or something useful? The lion takes a step forward, paws sinking silently into the powder. It's too calm. It's the kind of calm that means it's already decided what happens next. You step fully out of the hut, trying to look bigger, heavier, meaner than you feel. Your shoulders tighten. Your breath comes fast. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you think of how people thousands of years in the future will lock their doors at night, never knowing how luxurious it is to have something as simple as walls. You shout. Not words. Just a raw, ugly noise to tell it you're not afraid. Which is, of course, a lie. You are very much afraid. You grip the spear tighter and take a step toward it. For a second, it pauses. You think you've won a heartbeat of safety. Then its tail flicks. And that's when you know it's not going to back down. You thrust the spear forward in the air. Not to hit, just to make a line it has to cross. It crouches low. The snow under your feet seems to swallow sound, and in that brief silence, you hear something else. Voices, human. The hunting party is back. Shadows move behind you. The lion hesitates, reading the change. Spears come up all around it, and the air fills with shouts. The predator takes one last look at you, a look that feels personal, before it turns and bounds into the white void. You don't drop your weapon until it's gone from sight. Your shoulders ache from tension. Someone laughs, one of the hunters, not because it's funny, but because the only other choice is to think about how close it was. You laugh too, but it's thin and shaky. The leader of the hunting party looks you over, then at the almost dead fire in your hut. Next time, he says, keep the flames high. Fire talks louder than fear. You want to tell him that wood doesn't just fall from the sky, that you've been rationing what little fuel you have. But you swallow the words. In this world, excuses are useless. You'll just have to walk farther tomorrow, even if it means your hands turn black from frostbite. When you finally step back inside, the air feels colder than before, as if the encounter let some of the warmth leak out of the world. You throw a handful of twigs on the embers, watch the sparks rise. The rest of the night passes without another sound outside. But you don't sleep well. Every crunch of shifting snow makes your eyes snap open. Somewhere deep inside, you know the lion will be back. Things that stalk you in winter don't give up easily. By dawn, the frost inside the hut has grown thicker, curling over the walls in pale lace. You can taste the cold in every breath. The others are already outside, tightening the walls of their shelters, patching the weak spots with more hides. The sun creeps over the horizon, like it's afraid to face the day. The light is thin, the shadows long. You join the others without a word. There's no such thing as oversleeping in the Stone Age. If you wake late, you miss the warmth of the weak, midday sun. And that's as good as volunteering to die. As you walk into the frozen woods, looking for firewood, you catch yourself glancing over your shoulder every few minutes. It's not just the lion. It's the feeling that the whole world is watching and waiting. You follow the others into the forest, your feet sinking into the snow with a sound that's somehow both soft and exhausting. Every step feels like walking through wet sand that wants to swallow your legs. You adjust your grip on the axe. Not a metal one, of course. but a carefully chipped flint blade bound to a wood handle with sinew. It's heavier than you'd like, and colder. The kind of cold that seeps into your palm and makes your fingers feel like glass, ready to shatter. The air smells of pine and animal musk, and every so often you catch the faint metallic tang of ice. You can't help but think of the lion again. Its breath hanging in the air, the weight of its gaze. The trees here are tall, their branches bent under the weight of snow. It muffles the world, so even the occasional crack of ice far away sounds close enough to touch. One of the older hunters, a man with more missing teeth than whole ones, gestures for you to split off and gather kindling. You obey, because in the Stone Age, no isn't an answer. No means you don't come back to camp. You scrape through the crust of snow to find fallen branches, prying them free of the ice with your axe. Each time you bend down, the cold pushes against your face, creeping under your hood of stitched fur. It makes your skin ache, a deep, gnawing ache that doesn't go away even when you straighten up. And then, something moves in the trees. At first, you think it's the wind, a flutter of snow falling from a branch. But the second time, it's slower, deliberate, the kind of movement that belongs to something alive. You grip your axe tighter, scanning the shadows. It's not the lion. The shape is too small. Still, your chest tightens. A boy steps out from behind a pine, maybe 10 winters old. He's barefoot, his skin pale under the frostbite. You know him. One of the smaller families lost their hut to a fire last week. He's been wandering between shelters ever since, sleeping wherever someone will let him. He looks at you with wide, hollow eyes and says nothing, just holds out his hands. They're shaking, but not from fear, from cold. You pull a strip of dried meat from your pouch and toss it to him. His fingers close around it like claws, and he's gone before you can say anything. For a moment, you just stand there, staring at the spot where he disappeared into the snow. You think about the lion again, about how some predators walk on 4 legs, and some on 2, and about how hunger, the kind that gnaws down to the bone, doesn't care if you're friend or stranger. You shake yourself and go back to gathering wood. By midday your arms ache, your shoulders burn, and you've collected enough to keep the fire alive for another night. But alive doesn't mean comfortable. It means just enough to keep the frost from taking your toes while you sleep. The group heads back to camp, each step marked by the groan of snow underfoot. The light is already fading, the day barely begun, as if the sun is hoarding its warmth for some better place. When you reach your shelter, you dump the armload of wood beside the entrance and start breaking it into smaller pieces. Your breath clouds in the air like smoke. The sound of the axe splitting wood is oddly satisfying, each crack a small defiance against the cold. But the peace doesn't last. From somewhere near the river, there's shouting. Short, sharp bursts, the kind of sound people make when something has gone very, very wrong. You glance up to see 2 hunters running toward camp, their faces pale against the red of their breath. "What has gone bad?" one of them shouts. At first, you don't understand. Water's water, right? Cold, frozen, nothing to worry about. But then you hear the rest. A man fell in. The ice broke. He didn't come out. You know what that means. In this weather, the cold doesn't just kill slowly. It can take someone in minutes. The camp moves fast. 6 people grab ropes and spears, heading for the river. You follow, your feet pounding in time with your racing heart. When you reach the bank, the scene is chaos. A black hole yawns in the ice, where the river has swallowed its prey. 2 men are on their bellies at the edge, reaching down with spears like hooks. The cold from the water is different from the air, heavier, more final. You can feel it even standing back. And you know that if you slip, you'll never climb out. Finally, one of the men shouts. They've hooked something. The others help pull, and a body comes up, limp as a rag. They drag him to shore, lay him in the snow. His skin is the color of the ice around him, his eyes open but seeing nothing. Someone presses down on his chest, blowing air into his mouth. But you can tell it's useless. His lips are already turning black. You stand there, breathing hard, watching as they cover him with hides. In the Stone Age, death is not rare enough to weep for every time. But that doesn't make it feel any less heavy. When you walk back to camp, the sky is darker still, clouds rolling in like bruises. You know what that means. Another storm is coming, and storms here don't just steal the warmth, they steal the light. The hours blur into one long, freezing night. That night, as the wind screams through the trees, you lie by the fire with your eyes open, the shadows dancing on the walls. You think of the lion, the boy, the man in the river, and you realize it's not the cold that will kill you. It's how it makes everything else harder. Hunting, finding food, even trusting the people around you. The storm will pass. But winter isn't going anywhere, and neither is the lion. The storm arrives with no warning, only the sudden, gut-deep feeling that the world has decided to turn hostile again. The wind grows teeth. It doesn't just move through camp, it attacks it, shoving the hide walls of your shelter inward, until you think they'll collapse. Snow is no longer falling in flakes. It's falling in shards, like someone is smashing glass over your head. You pull the furs tighter around you, but the cold still finds the seams, seeping in like smoke under a door. The fire in the center of the shelter flutters low, choking on the wind's breath. You feed it another log, then another, knowing wood is your blood now. Without it, you stop being a living thing. You just become something the cold waits to collect. Outside, the camp is a blur of shadows. You can hear people shouting, but their words are torn away before they reach you. Every sound is strange in the storm. Voices sound farther away than they are, and footsteps seem to come from the wrong direction. You tell yourself you won't go out there, that you'll stay inside where the fire can guard you. But then you see it, a flicker through the gap in the hides. A small shape stumbling between the huts. It's the boy from the forest. No boots, no coat. He's trying to push against the wind, but it's too strong. Each step is slower, weaker. He's going to fall, and if he falls, he won't get up again. Before you can talk yourself out of it, you're outside. The cold hits you like a slap, stealing your breath so fast it makes you cough. You lower your head and push through the snow, your boots vanishing with each step. The boy doesn't hear you coming. The storm is too loud. You grab him by the arm, and he spins around, eyes wide and wild. For a moment, you think he might fight you. But then his face changes. Not relief, exactly, but the kind of tired surrender you see in old people, not children. You drag him toward your shelter, feeling the weight of his body grow heavier with each step. The wind is trying to tear you away from him, but you keep your grip like you're holding onto your own life. Because maybe you are. When you get inside, the warmth, what little there is, feels like another world. You push him toward the fire and wrap a hide around his shoulders. He says nothing. Just sits there, staring into the flames as if they might answer something he hasn't asked. The storm lasts all night. By morning, the camp looks different, smaller. Not everyone made it. 2 of the shelters collapsed under the snow. The people inside were dug out too late. Another hunter didn't come back from the forest, and the lion's tracks are closer, fresh. The hunters gather in a tight circle to talk, their voices low but urgent. You catch pieces. Too close, not safer, follow the trail. Before it finds the camp, they're going after it. Part of you hopes they'll kill it, if only so you can stop dreaming of that golden shadow moving between the trees. But another part of you knows, tracking a predator in this weather isn't bravery. It's a gamble. One wrong step, and you're the prey. By midday, the hunting party is gone. The camp feels emptier without them. The wind is still sharp, but the sun breaks through for a few hours, making the snow glare like glass. You take the boy with you to gather more wood. He doesn't speak, but he stays close, his small footprints next to yours. You find a fallen pine and start chopping it into smaller pieces. The sound echoes strangely, bouncing between the trees. At first, you think nothing of it, until you realize the echo is too slow. It's not an echo, it's footsteps. Heavy ones. You freeze, the axe still in your hands. The boy stiffens beside you, his eyes scanning the trees. And then you see it. The lion. Not a dream, not a shadow. A real, living, breathing beast. Its fur is thick and pale gold, blending almost perfectly with the winter light. Its eyes lock onto yours. You can't move. You can't even breathe. The boy takes a step back, and the lion's gaze flicks to him. You know you can't outrun it. You know you can't fight it. The only thing you know for certain is that, in the Stone Age, Nothing negotiates with hunger. The lion steps forward, and that's when a sound cracks through the air, sharp, loud, too human to be anything else. A spear, whistling past your head, burying itself in the snow just in front of the lion's paws. The beast stops, growls low, then turns and vanishes into the trees. When you spin around, one of the hunters is standing there, breathing hard, another spear in his hand. He says nothing, just jerks his head toward camp. You walk back in silence, the boy still close beside you. The sun is gone again, and the wind is rising. You realize you've survived another day. But you also realize something worse. Winter isn't testing you anymore. It's hunting you. You're still crouched by the embers, fingers stiff from scraping the frost off the inside of your fur hood. When the quiet shifts, it's not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful. It's the kind that wraps around you like the air just before lightning strikes. Every sound sharp, every sound too loud, even your own breathing. You hear the wind dragging itself over the ridge, but beneath it, there's something heavier, a rhythm. A sound that does not belong to the snow. The old hunter sitting across from you doesn't look up, but his grip on the spear shaft tightens so hard you hear the sinew lash creak. You don't need him to tell you. You've learned to read the language of silences. Something is watching. The smell of the camp is all smoke, unwashed bodies, and the faint soreness of animal hides drying on the rack. If you didn't know better, you'd think the predator, whatever it is, could track you from half a valley away just by scent. And maybe it can. In this age, you're never at the top of the food chain. One of the women, the one with hair matted into thick ropes, moves to the edge of the firelight and peers into the dark. She doesn't speak. No one does. The only thing worse than talking right now is knowing what you might wake up to if you pretend nothing's there. You shift your weight, fur boots crunching in the snow, and the sound makes every head turn toward you. Not because they think you'll ruin the hunt, but because they think you might be the reason for the danger. There's a low murmur. It's not loud enough to make out words, but you can feel them like a thorn pressed into your skin. The way the boy by the water skin keeps glancing at you. The way the old hunter won't meet your eyes. It's the kind of quiet accusation that grows into something deadly. The truth is, this isn't the first time the food's gone missing. The last time, everyone blamed the scavengers. Wolves maybe, or that thin, fox-faced man who disappeared into the trees 2 days later. But now, as the shadows sway around the campfire, and the smell of fresh blood from last night's kill still clings to your hands, the line between outsider and enemy is thinning, and then it happens. A sharp crack in the darkness like bone splitting. The hunter's spear is in his hand before you can even blink. 2 others rise, their breath puffing clouds in the cold, and vanish beyond the circle of light. The woman by the fire starts muttering something under her breath, an old prayer, maybe, or a curse. You try to listen for the sound again, but all you hear now is your heartbeat, too fast, too loud. You're certain the predator, whatever it is, has been shadowing you for hours. But when the hunters return, faces pale, you realize they didn't see any animal. They saw footprints. Human. Smaller than a man's, but too big for a child. Bare feet pressing deep into the snow. And they stop right at the edge of your firelight. The air in the camp changes. No one moves. Your mouth is dry enough to crack, but you force a swallow. The old hunter doesn't look at you. He looks through you, as if deciding if you're worth keeping alive. You've seen this before. Seen it when the weak got left behind during a blizzard. Seen it in the eyes of people who decided someone else's life was worth less than their own hunger. One of the men shifts closer to the spear rack. Another tosses a glance at you that's almost pity. Almost. The wind tears through the camp just then, carrying with it a smell that freezes you in place. Not the predator's musk, not wood smoke, not sweat. Something coppery, sharp. Blood. But not from an animal. From one of your own. There's shouting now. But it's the kind that stays low in the throat, like they're afraid of scaring something bigger. The boy who'd been eyeing you slips away toward the darkness. A moment later, someone yells. A body has been found, half buried in the snow not 20 steps from camp, throat open to the bone. The hunters drag it into the light. You almost wish they hadn't. Because even though the face is frozen in that terrible mask people get when their last breath turns to ice, the eyes are still open, and they're looking right at you. The woman with the matted hair starts speaking fast now, words tumbling over each other. You don't understand her language fully yet, but you know enough to catch one word, over and over. Which? Someone grips your arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise, and for a moment you think they're going to pull you toward the body. Instead, they push you toward the darkness. Your heart slams against your ribs. Behind you, the campfire pops, a sudden spray of sparks spiraling into the air like fleeing souls. Ahead, the snow swallows sound. The only thing you can hear is your own breath and the faint, deliberate crunch of footsteps matching your pace. You don't know if they belong to the predator in the trees, or to the human you can't trust anymore. You just know you can't run fast enough. The wind has changed again. You don't know how you can tell, but you do. It's a subtle thing, the way the cold air shifts in your nostrils, the way the sound of the forest alters, how the trees seem to lean differently when the gusts hit them from the east instead of the north. You've been out here long enough to notice these things. That, or you're finally losing your mind, which is not out of the question. You pull the furs tighter around your shoulders, though the edges are stiff with frozen animal fat, from where they've been patched again and again. The breath steaming from your lips is thicker now, almost like smoke itself. And that smell, there it is again. Not the clean, knife-sharp smell of untouched snow, nor the acrid scent of campfire smoke drifting from the cave. No, this is musk, wet fur, something animal, something moving. You don't want to turn your head. You tell yourself that if you keep looking forward, whatever it is will pass you by. But then you remember the old man's words from last night. How predators don't just pass by in a winter this lean. They follow. They wait. They circle until you can't tell their shadow from your own. The trees creak under the weight of snow, groaning like old bones. Somewhere far off, you hear a branch snap, not the light pop of ice giving way. No, this is heavier. Something stepping where it shouldn't. You grip the sharpened stick you've been using as a spear for the last week. It's little more than a branch hardened over a fire, but it's all you've got. The snow under your boots is deep now, dragging at your legs like wet sand. Every step is a choice. Do you move faster and risk making noise, or slower and give whatever's following you more time to close the gap? You take the middle path, which is to say, you don't know what you're doing, and you're praying it works out. By the time you see the cave, your legs are screaming. The entrance is a black mouth yawning open in the pale hillside. Smoke curls from within, smelling of pine resin and scorched meat. You tell yourself you've made it. You've crossed into safety. Except safety doesn't smell like fear, and right now the fear is thick enough to taste. Inside, the others are huddled around the fire. The flames paint their faces in gold and shadow, every wrinkle and scar dancing as the light flickers. They look up when you enter, but their eyes don't soften. Not like they used to. You're a stranger now. An outsider, even among your own people. Maybe because you left to scout the ridges without telling them. Maybe because you returned. The fire spits as a log collapses into embers. You sit cross-legged on the fur-strewn ground, rubbing your hands over the heat until the pain of thawing fingers shoots up your arms. Someone mutters something you can't catch. A few heads nod. The old man, his hair white as frost, keeps staring at you without blinking. You wonder if he knows. Knows what? That there's something following you. That you've been hearing it for days. That you left a strip of smoked meat hanging on a branch to keep it from your scent, and when you returned the next morning, it was gone, claw marks in the bark. You swallow hard. There's something out there? You say finally. The words hang in the smoky air. A woman with a necklace of bone teeth snorts. There's always something out there. Not like this, you say? But even to your own ears, you sound unsure. The old man finally speaks. It's the lean winter. They come closer when the hunger is worse. Sometimes they come inside. Then no one laughs. The wind howls outside the cave, a sound so human in its pain that for a moment you think someone is screaming. You grip your spear tighter. Night in the Stone Age is not quiet. It's a chorus of cracking ice, groaning trees, the drip of meltwater, and the far-off calls of things you never want to meet. Tonight, though, there's a new sound, soft rhythmic, coming from beyond the cave mouth. You think it might be your heartbeat, until you realize it's too slow. Someone rises and throws another log onto the fire. Sparks leap upward, swirling in the cave's updraft. The flames flare, and for the briefest second, you see movement in the dark outside. A shadow slipping between trees, low, smooth, watching. You want to shout, but your voice catches. Not from fear, exactly, but from the knowledge that naming it makes it real. The night stretches on, and the shadow does not leave. You drift in and out of a half-sleep, the kind where you're still aware of every sound. The crackle of the fire, the slow breathing of the others. And there, footsteps, just beyond the light. The fire has burned lower now, its warmth barely reaching your side of the cave. The old man is awake. You can see the faint gleam of his eyes in the dark. Without looking at you, he murmurs, "Don't go to the mouth." You don't ask why. You know. Dawn comes like a bruise spreading across the sky, purple and cold. You emerge from the cave to piss, and the snow outside is marked. Not by boots. Not by anything human. Long, deep impressions leading away from the entrance. Spaced too far apart for any deer. The tribe eats in silence that morning. Stringy hare meat boiled with bitter roots. No one asks if you slept. No one mentions the tracks. By midday you're out again, this time with 2 others. Hunters. They carry spears tipped with chipped stone and wear cloaks lined with wolf fur. You feel safer with them, though you know that's an illusion. Out here, safety is a story you tell yourself so you can keep moving. You find signs quickly. Broken branches, snow pressed into strange patterns. The faint metallic scent of blood on the air. One of the hunters crouches, brushing snow aside to reveal a patch of frozen earth stained brown. Whatever it was, it fed here. The other hunter meets your eyes. It's big. You don't need him to say more. Big means strong. Big means fast. Big means if it wants you, you won't see it coming. The wind rises, carrying with it the sound of something calling. Not a howl, not a roar. Something in between. It raises the hair on your neck and freezes you where you stand. The hunters exchange a glance. "We'll go back," one says. But it's not a suggestion. You want to run, but every step back toward the cave feels slower than the one before, as if the snow itself is trying to hold you here. When you finally see the smoke from the cave again, you think you're safe. You think the worst is over. Then you see the tracks, fresh ones, leading into the cave. And the smoke, it's thinner now, as if the fire has been left untended. You grip your spear, your stomach turning cold in a way the winter air could never match, because safety was always a story. And you're about to find out how it ends. The entrance to the cave seems smaller now, narrower, as if the stone itself has clenched in on whatever waits inside. Your breath comes fast, mist curling in the cold, but you force yourself to stay still. The hunters are beside you, one tightening his grip on his spear, the other scanning the trees, as if the danger might still be outside. But you know better. The tracks are wrong. Not just large, but deep, pressed with a weight that no man or deer carries. You can almost feel it through your boots, the echo of something heavy moving where it shouldn't. You step forward. The snow crunches underfoot, and the sound seems to carry forever in the morning stillness. The nearer you get, the more the air changes, smoke mixed with something else. Something coppery. Blood. You're not the first one to smell it. The wolf fur hunter gives a short hiss between his teeth, a sound that might be a curse or a prayer. The other motions for silence. You obey, because the one thing worse than finding out what's inside is letting it hear you coming. The cave swallows you. Light falls away in uneven patches, firelight flickering weakly ahead. It's not the lively, snapping flame you left. It's guttering, half-eaten, choking on its own smoke. Your eyes adjust, and you see them. 2 of your tribe, lying too still. One near the fire, his face turned toward you in a way no living person's head should ever lie. The other further back, a shape under furs. The fur is wet. Your stomach lurches, but you swallow it down. If you throw up, the smell will only draw whatever's still here. The wolf fur hunter moves first, stepping over the dead with the practiced steadiness of someone who has seen too much already. He crouches near the furs, lifts one edge. You don't need to see to know what's underneath. The bone, tooth necklace woman is gone. The old man is gone. The other hunter points toward the darker part of the cave, where the stone curves inward into a black slit of shadow. He mouths a single word you don't want to hear deeper. The thing hasn't left. You can hear it now, so faint you think it might be your pulse. But the rhythm is wrong, a slow wet sound, like meat being torn from a bone. The hunters tense. One raises his spear, the other draws a stone blade from his belt. You look at your own weapon, a charred stick, and feel the same uselessness you'd feel holding a straw against a storm. Then you see it. Not all at once. Your eyes catch pieces in the dark. A hunched back, the dull gleam of fur matted with frost. A paw, or is it a hand, dragging something closer to its mouth. The slow lift of a head. Two eyes catch the firelight. They are not animal eyes. The hunters move together, stepping between you and the shadow. The wolf, fur one growls, not like a man imitating an animal, but like something deep in his chest has remembered how to sound dangerous. The shadow answers with a sound you've never heard before, high and low at the same time, almost mocking. Then it comes. It's not fast. Not at first. It crawls into the fire's light, and you see it fully now. Tall, if it were standing, but it doesn't stand. It folds in on itself like it's too big for its own bones. Its fur is patchy, skin scarred and puckered. Its mouth is too wide. The fire spits. The thing's eyes flick toward it. For a moment, you think maybe it fears the flame. Then it steps forward, right through the embers. The hunters strike. Stone bites into hide, wood slams against ribs, and the sound it makes is like ice splitting on a river. You want to run, but the entrance is behind the thing now, and outside is no safer. The wolf, fur hunter, shouts at you, words you don't catch, and throws his spear. It sinks deep into the thing's side. Blood, dark, almost black, pours onto the stone floor. The smell hits you like a wave, thick and metallic. The other hunter grabs your arm. Move! You move. Not toward the entrance. There's no space, but toward the back of the cave. The shadows seem thicker there, the air colder. But it's movement, and movement is life. The thing doesn't follow. It stays with the wolf, fur hunter. You hear the sounds of struggle, bone snapping, flesh tearing. And then silence. Too much silence. The other hunter pushes you into a narrow passage. Stones scraping your shoulders. You have to turn sideways to fit, the walls damp and freezing. The sound of your breath fills your ears. Behind you, something is moving again. The passage twists, and you see a faint glow ahead. Not firelight, something softer, bluish. The air smells different too, almost clean. You step into a chamber. The ceiling glitters faintly where ice has formed in thin sheets. Water drips into a shallow pool at the center, its surface perfectly still. The hunter crouches and dips his hand into the water, then smears it across his face. He gestures for you to do the same. Why? You whisper. So it can't smell you. You kneel, your hands shaking as you touch the water. It's colder than anything you've ever felt, biting into your skin like a blade. You smear it across your cheeks, your neck, your wrists. The shock is almost enough to make you forget what's in the other room. Almost. A sound echoes down the passage. Not footsteps. Something dragging. The hunter's face is set now, his eyes hard. We wait. You don't want to wait. Every part of you screams to move, to run, to climb out through some unseen hole in the stone. But you stay, because moving will make noise, and noise will make you pray. Minutes, or hours, pass. The dripping water becomes a clock you can't stop hearing, and then silence. The hunter tilts his head, listening. Slowly he rises, motioning for you to follow. You return to the main cave. The fire is almost out, the air thick with the smell of blood and burned hair. The wolf fur hunter is gone, so is the thing. But in the snow just outside there are new tracks. They lead away from the cave. And you know, deep in your bones, that this isn't over. Not for you. Not for the rest of the winter. Because in the Stone Age, sometimes the thing following you is not hunting for food. Sometimes it's just learning what you taste like. The snow has changed. You don't notice it at first. It's still white, still falling in quiet, slow spirals. But when you step outside the cave, the air feels heavier, as if the sky has pressed closer to the earth. The flakes aren't light anymore, they land with a weight, melting slower on your skin, like they're reluctant to disappear. The hunter beside you keeps his eyes on the tracks. He doesn't speak, and you don't ask. Words would only carry into the trees, and you've already learned that sound here is a kind of beacon. You follow the trail, each footprint a small wound in the perfect snow. The thing's steps are longer than yours, but there's a drag to them now, one side heavier than the other, the spear wound. It should make you feel safer, but instead it feels worse, because an injured predator doesn't stop hunting. It gets angry. The forest closes around you. The trees are black lines against the pale ground, their branches groaning under the weight of ice. Somewhere far off, something cracks, a tree limb breaking, maybe, or something stepping on bone. The hunter stops. He crouches low, presses his hand to the snow. His fingers come up stained red. You know without asking, it's not human blood. The trail leads down a slope into a hollow where the snow is deeper, the air colder. Your breath fogs in front of you, and for a moment, you catch the faint smell of smoke again. But this is different, richer, mixed with the fat of something cooked. And you hear it, not the thing. Voices. Your heart kicks. People you push forward, the hunter close behind. As you round a stand of trees, you see them. 3 figures huddled around a small fire, their backs to you. Their clothes are fur and hide, patched and worn. One stirs something in a pot made from a hollowed skull. The hunter catches your arm, his grip iron. He shakes his head. You don't understand, until you see the 4th shape. It's lying in the snow near them. Long limbs, matted fur, head turned away. The thing, dead. You almost laugh, relief flooding your chest. But then the nearest figure turns, and the smile dies before it starts. The face isn't right. The eyes are wide, unfocused, as if they're looking past you. The mouth is slack, stained with something dark. The hunter pulls you back into the shadows. You resist for a heartbeat, and in that moment you see the truth. The thing's body isn't whole. The arms are gone. The legs too. The chest is split open. Ribs like white fingers against the snow. And the people around the fire aren't cooking deer. The hunter drags you away before they notice. His steps quick, urgent. When you're far enough, he finally speaks, his voice low and flat. They eat it. You don't ask if he means the thing, or the people the thing killed. You're not sure it matters. Because winter in the Stone Age doesn't give you choices. It only gives you hungers. And sometimes, the only difference between the hunter and the hunted is what you're willing to put in your mouth. The snow begins to fall harder, and the tracks, both yours and the thing's, start to vanish behind you. But you can still feel eyes on your back. The wind does not politely ask to come inside. It slams into you, claws at your skin, and slips under the fur you've wrapped so tightly you thought nothing could get in. The Stone Age winter has no interest in your comfort. It's not here to test your endurance, it's here to erase it. You're already regretting being here. But don't worry, it's about to get worse. The air is so sharp it feels like it's shaving the inside of your nose every time you breathe in. Your eyelashes are stiffening into tiny icicles, sticking together when you blink. You try to pull your hood lower, but your fingers are too numb to cooperate. They're clumsy, swollen, alien things now. In the 21st century, cold means cranking the thermostat or sipping hot chocolate. Here, cold means deciding which finger you're willing to lose first. You keep walking because stopping is a kind of death. The snow is not soft here. It's hard and crusted over, squealing under your weight. Every step sends a shudder up your leg, as if the ground is scolding you for daring to exist on it. The rest of the group is ahead, they're hunched, fur-covered shapes moving like shadows in the white haze. You want to call out, but your voice feels buried deep in your chest, frozen in place. The scent in the air isn't fresh like the snowy postcards. You smell damp fur, faint smoke from the camp you left hours ago, and something else, meat, maybe, old meat. This is not the crisp mountain air you'd imagined. This is survival air, heavy with the reminder that the only thing between you and starvation is the hunt. And then you see it, a smear of red in the snow ahead. Not bright, not fresh, older, browned at the edges like someone painted it days ago. You stop, just long enough for your mind to run through the possibilities. Animal kill, a warning, or worse, a member of the group who couldn't keep up. One of the hunters glances back at you. His face is painted with soot, not for style but because it hides the shine of his skin from predators. His eyes squint in a way that says, "Move, or I leave you." You've known him for less than a week, but you already understand the Stone Age rulebook. Sympathy is a luxury, and luxuries freeze fast out here. The group presses on until the trees close in, tall pines heavy with snow that sags down in clumps. It's quieter here, so quiet that you hear the soft patter of snow slipping from branches. You feel the cold settling deeper into your bones. Every joint complains now. Your knees ache like they've aged 40 years in a day. The hunters stop suddenly. One kneels, presses a hand to the snow, then brings it to his nose. You expect him to explain, but explanation is another luxury. Instead, he signals to the others, and they fan out in a slow, deliberate half circle. You're on the edge of it, gripping a spear you barely know how to use. The shaft is rough in your hand, splintering slightly. The point tipped with stone that took someone hours to carve. It's a tool that feels like a responsibility. If you drop it, you're not just clumsy, you're dangerous to everyone. Then you hear it, the faint crunch of movement that isn't yours. You turn your head slowly, every muscle tight, and catch sight of something between the trees. At first, it looks like a shadow, but then you see the antlers, broad, heavy, dusted with frost. A reindeer, ribs just barely visible under its thick winter coat. It's moving slow, limping slightly. You can almost hear its breath, labored and steaming in the frozen air. One of the hunters raises his hand. Your cue to stay still. Your body obeys, but your heart doesn't. It's thundering so hard you're sure the deer can hear it. The air feels heavier now, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. The hunter to your left moves first, launching his spear in a smooth, practiced arc. It hits the deer's flank, not killing it but stopping it short. The animal lets out a sound that twists in your gut, half grunt, half scream. It stumbles, tries to run, but another spear finds its mark. Snow kicks up around its legs as it falls, and for a moment, the world is just the sound of its struggle and the hiss of your own breath in your ears. When it's over, no one cheers. There's no victory dance, no back slapping. This isn't sport, it's currency. It's the difference between seeing the spring and becoming part of the forest floor. The hunters move in quickly, working with silent efficiency. The smell of hot blood hits the air, steaming as it meets the cold. Your stomach turns, not because of disgust, but because part of you, soft, modern, insulated, knows you couldn't have done it yourself. But here, that softness is a weakness, and weakness is dangerous. One hunter catches your eye, as if reading your thoughts. He doesn't say anything, just hands you the knife. It's not a request. The fur is warm under your hand, the warmth almost shocking after the hours of cold. Your fingers sink into it as you work awkwardly, trying to mimic the others. The knife drags through hide that's tougher than you expect. Blood seeps onto your hands, sticky and hot, and for a brief moment, it feels like it's thawing you from the outside in. When the work is done, they load the meat onto crude sleds. The forest seems to close back in behind you, erasing all sign that life was here minutes ago. The snow starts again, heavier now, flakes clinging to your eyelashes until you see the world through a soft blur. You walk for what feels like hours until the camp smoke finally threads up into the sky ahead. The shelters are simple. Wood frames covered in hides, snow packed around the base to block the wind. The moment you step inside one, the air changes. It's not warm, not really. But compared to outside it feels like stepping into summer. The fire in the center pops softly, its light flickering over the faces of the others. They're tired, but there's a shared quiet satisfaction. Tonight there will be food. The meat is cut, roasted, shared. It's tough, smoky, gamey. You chew slowly, every bite a reminder of what it cost to get here. Outside, the wind keeps howling, like it's waiting for the chance to come back in and finish the job. You know it will. Winter here doesn't lose interest. It just circles, and tomorrow you'll go back out. Because in the Stone Age, the cold isn't the only thing that wants you dead. You wake before the light does. Not because you want to, but because the cold slips into your sleep and shakes you awake like a rude landlord asking for rent. Your breath hangs above you in the dim air, turning the inside of the shelter into a cloud. Every joint complains when you move, your back stiff from sleeping on nothing but hides over frozen earth. Somewhere outside, the wind is keening through the trees, an endless sound that makes you feel small and temporary. The others are already stirring. A low cough comes from the far corner, a sound you've been hearing for days from one of the elders. Out here, coughs aren't background noise, they're red flags. In the modern world, you'd throw a blanket over your shoulders, boil some tea, maybe call a doctor. Here, a cough in the dead of winter is a shadow creeping over your camp, because sickness spreads faster than the fire can keep up. One of the hunters shuffles past you, wrapped so thick in fur you can barely see his face. He grunts something in a language you don't understand, and steps outside. Cold floods in the moment he opens the flap, carrying with it the smell of wood smoke and something else. Meat, cooking slow, mingled with the sharper scent of frozen pine. You follow him out, because staying inside just means lying there thinking about how cold you are. The snow is deeper today, past your knees in some places, swallowing your legs with every step. The sky is a flat, endless grey, the kind of colour that makes it impossible to tell what time it is. It's the Stone Age's way of saying, time isn't yours to measure. By the fire, a woman is tending to a pot hung over the flames. She stirs it slowly, her hands steady despite the cold. The muscles in her arms lean and taut from a lifetime of work. She glances at you but doesn't smile. It's not unkindness. It's just that warmth here is rationed like everything else. You can't spend it on pleasantries. The smell from the pot is rich and fatty. Bone broth. You didn't realize how much you missed the smell of hot food until now. She ladles some into a bowl carved from horn and hands it to you. The heat bites at your fingers through the crude dish, but you cling to it, letting the steam fog your face as you drink. It's salty, greasy. Exactly what your body craves after days of dried meat, and whatever roots could be dug from under the snow. As you eat, you notice movement on the edge of camp. Two young boys are dragging something through the snow. A bundle wrapped in hide, leaving a dark stain in its wake. You don't need to ask what it is. The hunt doesn't always end in triumph, and sometimes predators get there first. When they reach the fire, the hide is pulled back to reveal what's left of a small deer, half-eaten, ribs picked clean. The group exchanges glances that you can't quite read. You think you see frustration, but also relief, because even half a deer is still food. The carcass is taken to the side, the usable parts quickly stripped. The hide will be tanned, the bones cracked for marrow, the meat roasted or dried for later. Nothing is wasted here, not because they're noble environmentalists, but because waste gets you killed. After the meal, you're pulled into work without anyone asking. That's another thing about the Stone Age. Jobs aren't assigned, they're expected. You're handed a stone scraper, its edge sharp from careful chipping, and pointed toward a stretched hide frozen stiff in the cold. Your task is simple. Scrape away the fat and flesh clinging to the inside. Simple doesn't mean easy. Your fingers cramp, the cold making each movement slow. The smell of raw hide clings to you, mixing with the tang of smoke from the fire. You lose track of time as you work. The monotony is broken only when a shout goes up from the edge of camp. Everyone freezes, heads snapping toward the sound. A scout is standing there, pointing toward the tree line. His voice is urgent, and though you can't understand his words, his meaning is clear. Something's out there. The camp comes alive in an instant. Spears are snatched up, bows strung, fires stoked higher. You're swept along with the movement, your pulse climbing in your throat. The trees ahead look calm, but that's the trap. Calm here is never real. And then you see it. Just for a moment, between the trunks, a shape too large to be a deer, moving low and slow. The fur on its back is dark, its head massive, shoulders rippling under the pelt. A cave lion. Bigger than you imagined, its presence alone bending the air around it. It doesn't rush the camp, it circles, testing, gouging. You realize with a cold twist in your gut that it's not afraid of you. Not even a little. The hunters fan out, voices low but sharp. The lion paces at the edge of the trees, eyes catching the light of the fire for just a heartbeat. Gold and cold and fixed on you. You think about the thin hide walls of the shelter, about how easily those teeth could go through them. You think about how, in the modern world, predators are behind glass at the zoo, and you're safe behind double, paned windows. Here, you're the one behind no barrier at all. The standoff feels endless, the air tight with the smell of smoke, blood and snow. Finally, the lion slips back into the trees, vanishing so cleanly you almost doubt you saw it. The hunters don't relax, not fully. One of them mutters something under his breath, probably a warning, it'll be back. And just like that, life resumes. You go back to scraping the hide, but now every rustle of branches makes you glance up. Every shadow looks heavier than it should. Night comes fast in the Stone Age. The fire becomes the center of everything, its circle of light the thin line between you and whatever waits in the dark. The cold presses closer now, sharp as knives, making the smoke sting your eyes. You wrap yourself tighter in fur, but still, the chill seeps through. You eat your portion of roasted meat slowly, trying to make it last, trying not to think about the cave lion somewhere out there in the black. When you finally lie down, the ground feels harder, the wind louder. You pull the hide over your head, and in the dark, you hear it, a low, distant rumble, almost like thunder. But it's not thunder. It's the sound of something alive. And you know sleep won't come easy tonight. You wake to a sound that's not quite wind, not quite silence. A sort of whispering sigh, as if the earth itself is catching its breath. Your eyes open reluctantly, the cold has crusted them shut, and for a terrifying second, you think you've gone blind. But no, there it is, the pale, thin light seeping through the hide flap of your shelter, carrying with it a scent you almost don't recognize anymore. Fresh air. Not the sharp, icy knife that sliced your lungs every morning for months, but something softer, gentler with a faint, almost impossible trace of damp earth beneath it. But you're not dead yet, which means the day demands work. Always work. Your hands ache as you peel them out of the fur wrappings, the skin cracked and blackened around the nails. Every movement feels like someone has driven splinters into your joints. But there's no luxury in pain here. The Stone Age doesn't stop, because you'd rather just lie down and stop. It keeps grinding forward, chewing on the weak and spitting out bones for the wolves. Your breath ghosts in the dim air as you shuffle to the shelter's entrance. The flap lifts, and for the first time in months, the world doesn't hit you like a wall of frozen glass. The sky is still a pale, washed-out grey, but there's a difference. You see it in the snow, or rather, the edges of it. A sheen of water, where the morning light brushes against it. The tiniest rivulets beginning to snake through the drifts, glinting like silver scars. It would be beautiful if it weren't so dangerous. Because melting snow means instability. The ice will fracture, the rivers will awaken, and the food, if there's any left, will start to move again. And so will your enemies. Hunger has made everything meaner this winter. Wolves, bears, other people, you shoulder the spear. Not the good one, that snapped 2 weeks ago, during the hunt that cost you 3 days' worth of energy and yielded nothing but a bruised shoulder. This is the patched one, its shaft bound in raw-wide strips, the point napped from a flake of stone that's not quite the right shape, but is all you've got left. You step into the slush with a sound that is almost obscene after months of snow crunch, a wet, sucking kiss against your boots. The wind is low today, and that's the only reason you have a chance. You follow the deer tracks, faint but still fresh enough to read. They pull you out into the open tundra, where the land rolls like the back of some massive sleeping beast. The horizon blurs between snow and sky, and the only proof you're moving at all is the burn in your thighs and the growing weight of your breath. Your hunger is a constant throb in your skull, a background drumbeat you've learned to live with like some unwanted rhythm in a bad song you can't shut off. Hours blur together. The tracks wind toward the line of dark shapes in the distance. Trees, clustered like conspirators around a frozen stream. Your instincts hum at the change. The air smells alive here. Not full spring, not yet, but something shifting. You drop into a crouch, every muscle protesting, and creep forward. There, between two black, bark trunks, the twitch of an ear. The slow, uncertain chew of a jaw. A deer, its ribs showing through the thin winter coat. Too tired to be afraid of the sounds you're making. Or maybe it's just so used to death circling around that it no longer bothers to care. This is it. No second tries. No, we'll get the next one. You rise slowly, spear balanced in your hand, and for a heartbeat the world holds its breath with you. Then you throw. The stone point finds its mark. Not cleanly. Nothing is clean in the Stone Age, but deep enough. The deer stumbles, collapses, and doesn't rise again. You sprint, your legs screaming, your heart slamming, because the wolves will have heard, and this meat is worth more than your life. You reach it, your hands shaking as you drive the spear down again, making sure. The blood steams in the cold, curling into the air like incense. You're dizzy with the smell. Meat. Real meat. Not scraps of dried sinew or marrow scraped from old bones. This is salvation lying here in the slush. You don't take your time. The hide is rough under your fingers, the fat cold and stubborn, but you work fast. You've done this so many times that your body moves, even when your mind is somewhere else. Somewhere warm? Maybe. A place where food comes without killing, and nights don't freeze your breath inside your lungs. The thought almost makes you laugh. Almost. The wolves appear just as you expected. Silent shadows on the tree line. Their eyes catch the light, small suns burning in the grey. You sling as much meat as you can over your shoulder, and leave the rest. There's no fighting them for it. They'll take what's left. And honestly, let them. Hunger's an old enemy, and you can't help but feel a bit of kinship for anything else that's made it through this winter. The walk back is different. You can feel the weight of survival in your arms, and for once it's not a metaphor. The snow under your boots is softer now, giving way to the thaw. The wind shifts, carrying with it the wet, rich smell of soil waking up after its long death. And somewhere deep in you, a knot you didn't even know you'd been carrying begins to loosen. When you reach the shelter, the others look up. Their eyes go wide, not in fear, not anymore, but in something you'd almost call hope if you weren't afraid to name it. The meat is shared in silence, the fat sizzling over the fire, the smell wrapping around you like a blanket. The first bite is almost too much. It's not just food. It's proof that you're still here, the days after that shift in strange ways. The snow shrinks back, revealing the scars of winter. Bones scattered where the weaker ones fell, trees stripped of bark, the brittle shells of what once lived. But life returns in pieces. The rivers begin to move. Birds return, their songs tentative, as if they're not entirely sure it's safe. Your muscles stop shivering constantly. You catch yourself thinking about something beyond the next mouthful of food, and one morning, without quite realizing how, you wake and there's green. Small shoots pushing up through the dark soil, fragile but stubborn. You crouch and touch one, and for a moment the cold months blur into something you can barely believe you survived. You've made it through. Barely. Scarred, thinner than you ever thought possible, and carrying the weight of too many empty days. But breathing. And in the Stone Age, that's more than victory. It's defiance. Because you weren't meant to last here. And yet you did.